Hey, Ben here, and in today's video, I'm going to give you 10 ways in which you can improve your business's cash flow. We all know how important cash flow is to a business. It's the lifeblood of a business. You know, we want that to be a positive cash flow, i.e. we end up with more money at the end of the accounting period than the beginning. And in today's video, I'm going to give you 10 ways in which you can make that happen. Way number one, get rid of stuff you don't need or you don't use anymore. The amount of businesses that every single month pay out hundreds or thousands of pounds on software, applications, systems that they no longer need just because nobody has thought to cancel it. It just sits there. Oh, I think we use it every now and then, do we? John, do we use it every now and then? You know, go through, audit your outgoings, work out what you're currently spending money on a monthly, yearly basis, whatever it is, and understand, do we use this anymore? Is it needed by the business anymore, or can we just get rid of it? You can often find you can make massive savings and improvements to your business's cash flow just by getting rid of outgoings that you no longer need or want. Number two, renegotiate contracts. Go through your existing contracts, your service providers, and ask them, is this the most competitive price? We've been doing business now for 3 years. Can you do something for us? You know, it might be that you pay for a service on a monthly basis, whereas if you sign into a year-long deal, they'll give it to you at a much cheaper price. You know, all of these kinds of things. Make sure you go through your contracts, especially ones you've had for a while, and try and renegotiate the price. Because in a lot of cases, especially if you've been with them a while, you know, you can see 10-20% savings just for asking the question. Number three, similar to number two, but in this one, we're going to renegotiate our payment terms. So if you're paying due on receipt, try and get 30-day terms. If you've got 30-day terms, ask for 60 or 90-day terms. You know, a lot of businesses, you know, especially if they're in good cash flow, if you're a very valued customer, if you've always paid on time, a lot of businesses are open to negotiating on payment terms. And just by being able to push out your payment terms by a further 30 days, you can massively increase your cash flow. You know, you can just free up a lot more money within your business to use in that calendar month or to just count as profit. So it's always worth trying to renegotiate the payment terms on everything. Also, if you're taking a new service out, especially if it's something like a monthly service, make sure you ask for payment terms. You know, you won't get them all the time, but if you can negotiate 30-day payment terms, you know, it can help. Step number four, if you need to buy new machinery or products, laptops, whatever it might be, you know, look into leasing rather than buying. Look at being able to pay for things over a monthly rather than paying out for them all in a one-off cost that's going to come out and massively affect your cash flow in that month. Now, if you're sat on big reserves and you do want to just acquire stuff if that's part of your business, you know, buying model, then that's absolutely fine. But you can also make quite big improvements to cash flow just by leasing over purchasing. 5, if you're carrying stock, look at your stock systems. Are you holding on, buying in massive amounts of stock to hold on to it for 18 months when you don't need to? You know, from what point do you put the order in for your stock? Can it be on your shelves? Because if you can introduce things like Kanban systems, just-in-time ordering, you know, the least stock you can carry, that's a lot less money tied up in stock, but it's money in your bank. So look at how you're currently working and carrying inventory and see if you can adapt the amount you're ordering, the frequency you're ordering, and pull it into kind of just in time rather than just buying in massive amounts of stock just because it might be that's easier for stores to deal with. But look into how you're currently ordering and holding stock, because you'll probably find that by making a few adjustments there, you can massively affect your cash flow. Number 6, make sure you're invoicing customers at the time that they purchase. In so many businesses, I see that a purchase is made and by the time things go through and the invoice is raised, you know, you can end up with like really long delays, like, you know, a week to 2 weeks for an invoice to get raised and sent to the client. Well, you know, all you're doing then is, if you are offering that client payment terms, those payment terms are going to start from when they get that invoice. You know, if you are offering payment terms, it might be that you shorten those, so you give people 7 days to pay an invoice rather than 30 days. Step 6, make sure you're invoicing at the point in which they order. So many businesses, a customer will agree to buy, and then an email gets sent or something gets sent over to accounts, and it could be days, if not weeks, before an invoice is raised and sent out to that customer. You need to make sure you are invoicing early, you are invoicing at the point in which they purchase, because that is when your terms are going to start. So if you traditionally offer clients, say 30 days to pay, look at whether or not you need to offer that 30 days. Well, what if you invoiced customers on a 7-day invoicing period? So, things like this can massively bring forward when you get paid, and then that's money in your bank rather than in theirs, which is going to, again, help with your cash flow. Step 7, use electronic payment methods. Don't rely on checks. Things get lost, they get delayed in sending, they're waiting for someone to sign. Make sure that you are offering the ability for people to use backs to pay you. Make sure that, you've got a credit card terminal, because at that point, the point of sale, you could actually take the payment, then send the invoice later. This could massively reduce the payment terms and the amount of time between in which case you kind of invoice versus or when you sell your product or service to when you get paid. Massively shortens that, and that's money in your bank, again, rather than theirs. Step number 8, use credit cards. When you're purchasing, if you're purchasing straight from your bank account, and you're using just normal banking methods like that, look at using credit cards. If you're using credit cards, most of the time you're going to get 30 days interest free. So by doing that, you can give yourself another 30 days. So if you combine that, say you've got 30-day terms to pay for something, and at that 30-day point, you then use a credit card to pay for it, you've effectively given yourself 60 days interest free to pay for whatever it is you've just bought. That can have a massive effect on cash flow, especially in a month where you've got a lot going out and you want to kind of eke that out or push it into the next month without being late with your payment. Which brings me on to step 9, late payments. It is something that people need to have in their contract. Most businesses will try and pay on time, but a lot of businesses, they're not really that interested. They will pay on like first or second reminder. So you need to make sure there is a mechanism in there. It might be that you don't use it at first for businesses while you're getting them used to it, but you need to have an ability to say, no, you're late every month with this. We are going to charge this late fee, which covers our admin costs. At the end of the day, you're going to have team members that are having to chase these invoices every month. So not only are they late with their payment, they're also tying up your team and resources because they're having to continually chase them. So make sure you've got late payments in place to cover that. Which brings me on to point number 10, incentivize early payments. It might be that you normally offer 30-day terms, whereas if people agree to pay on a direct debit or a standing order, they get a 5% discount. But at that point, that they're going to pay every month on the dot in line with their direct debit or standing order, and there's going to be no chasing. Also, you're not giving them 30 days. So you need to look at whether you incentivize for early payments, because the more people you get on that, the less admin costs you've got in chasing that. You're not having to wait the 30 days anymore, which means that money is in your bank account or 30 days sooner, which can be very valuable. Okay, and if you stuck with me this long, I'm going to give you bonus point number 11, which is increase your prices. And this is something that a lot of people don't like to do, but most businesses, they build it into their prices. Every single year there is a slight price increase, and that slight price increase, you can put that in place, but at the same time say, right, we're increasing our prices by 5%. However, we want to remind you, but that by agreeing to pay on standing order or direct debit, you get a 5% discount. So actually you'd stay at the same price. So this can be really, really valuable as using to increase your prices, but you can keep people on at the same price, but get them to pay early. So, or alternatively, just put your prices up 5%, whatever it is you're putting them up. Because if customers are happy, as long as you're not putting your prices up too much, most businesses will take the price increase if they're happy. So, and if if a business isn't happy, you can always renegotiate with them and find a kind of middle ground so they are happy. As long as you've got the account management, you're dealing with your customers in a proactive way, you're not going to run into much problems. But by increasing your prices and getting customers used to increasing prices on a yearly basis, it isn't a surprise, it's just an expected that every year our costs go up because we're paying for this, that or the other, or inflation, whatever it is, and we need to bring costs up in line to basically account for that and so that we remain profitable without having to make cuts to the product quality or our service quality. So I'd love to know, out of those tips, if you're going to use any, what mechanisms do you have in place for dealing with your business's cash flow and keeping it positive? I'd love to know. As always, let me know in the comments below.